On July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the masters of the wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher Programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM, presented by Teresa and David on behalf of Share International New Zealand.
We're going to continue with our series of reviews on Benjamin Creme's books in the second half of our show, but we'll start with an article by Mr. Creme's master, sourced from Share International magazine, December 2001, entitled The Entry of Maitreya. It begins.
When, as now, man is at the crossroads, awaiting guidance on which direction to take, he sets up an evocative cry for help. Inevitably, when the cry has reached a certain pitch, we, your elder brothers, respond and answer. Thus is it today, as men flounder wildly in the chaos of their own making, afraid to take the only steps which will save them from further chaos.
Into this maelstrom Maitreya is about to enter, fully aware of the task which lies ahead. Only a being of his immeasurable wisdom could accept such a burden. Only someone of his incomparable courage could undertake such a task.
Out of the anarchic conditions of the present must he construct the new and better order. Out of the agony of millions must he fashion a new world. Who is there to help him in his work of salvage? Who would rally to his cause and aid their brothers and sisters? Now, as never before, is the opportunity to serve a world in labour, a new world waiting to be born.
Maitreya seeks to lift man into his birthright. He seeks to inspire the creation of a new and happier world. The great Lord seeks to invest each individual life with sanctity and worth. He seeks to rid the world of violence and war. Where will he find his helpers? Who are ready to respond? Who have the courage to aid the Lord of love?
He knows already those on whom he can depend. Make ready to see him. Burnish bright your resolve. Be not dismayed by the immensity of the task. Be simple and heartfelt in all you do. Maitreya approaches fast on a shining white steed. His mantram is, "Fear not. All in time will be renewed. All in time will be returned to the light."
Consider this. Take your brother's need as the measure for your action, and solve the problems of the world. There is no other course. Into your unhappy world now steps Maitreya. He knows your agony and suffering better than you do yourselves, for he knows too the joy which is your birthright.
That joy would he restore to you in full and perfect measure. For that is he among you. Take him to your hearts and let him serve you. Know him as your friend and brother of old. Let him guide you and teach you. Thus will you grow in your divinity.
The time has come when you shall see his face. His smile of love will beckon you to his side. You will find your love magnified 1,000-fold, and, giving it in service to his cause, enter into the plan of which you are a part.
Another regular feature in Share International magazine is the themed compilations. This selection, entitled A Climate of Expectancy, is sourced from December 2013's edition.
As the destined hour approaches, mankind awaits the messenger. Already the signals flash around the world that the expected one is indeed among us. The longed-for impossible dream becomes a fact. Suddenly, a new wave of expectation grips the hearts of many. and turns their minds to the central event of our time.
Across the world the signs have done their work. More and more men recognise their import and grasp gratefully anew at the comfort that they bring. A fresh joy rises in the hearts of those who know the truth, that the messenger stands ready to emerge into the full light of day, awaiting only the call to begin his mission. Soon that call will sound forth and a new era will begin. Source: Benjamin Creme's Master from The Destined Hour.
Since there are signs, there are creators of the signs. All religious groups await and expect their chosen divine revelation, and read the signs as confirmation of their faith. Such confirmation sustains them in perilous times, and gives them hope for a better future. In this way, a climate of expectancy and hope is created among many millions, and prepares them for the events which are now imminent.
Few can deny the signs, although their meaning may be obscure. They quicken the intuition and the imagination of men, and open their hearts to the revelations which are to come. From statues which weep and move, to light patterns which adorn the fronts of buildings across the world. From shining crosses of light to milk-drinking Hindu gods, the signs are endless. Few can have been untouched by these wonders.
Doubters and skeptics, of course, are ever to be found, but not for long. Very soon the climate of expectancy will grow and register firmly in the minds and hearts of men everywhere, and into that expectant atmosphere Maitreya will enter and begin his open mission. Source: Benjamin Creme's Master from Signs in Abundance.
The world awaits the appearance of the Christ, and soon the expectations of countless individuals will be fulfilled. His mission has already begun. The changes which proceed apace bear witness to his presence. The signs are there for all to see, not only for the discerning, but for those who must hear a thunderclap to sense a storm.
Soon the final preparations for his emergence will be in place, awaiting the outer events which must precede his declaration. Dignitaries around the world await his call, ready to reveal their experience of his blessing. Many who already know him stand poised to speak. From all nations and peoples will come the representatives of each, eager to add their voice to the hosannas of esteem.
Maitreya's task has but begun, yet already the nations shake off the stranglehold of the past. What then can be imagined when, in full vision, he stands before the world, his teaching and counsel uplifting the hearts and minds of all? Source: Benjamin Creme's Master from Day of Destiny.
Total belief that all of this is true is not essential. An open-minded acceptance of the possibility of the Christ return now is the overriding necessity at the present time. This alone would release in humanity a renewed hope and a spiritual expectancy which would galvanize it into a much-needed change of direction, and ensure a positive response to his message and his teaching when he reveals himself. Source: Benjamin Creme from his book The Reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom.
And to conclude this compilation, we have 2 audio clips from the series of 140 messages that Maitreya gave through Mr. Creme. The first quotation is from message number 19.
Many of you will see me soon. Share with your brothers this joyous expectation and tell them that Maitreya, their friend, their brother, their teacher of old has come. Do this now and restore to men the hope which they have lost.
And this quotation from message number 61.
My intention is to reveal myself soon and by the shortest route. All else failing, I shall emerge into a world ready but unprepared, a world which knows not yet that I am among you. But far better would it be for me to come before you as the expected one, the one sent by God to lead you into your future glory. Many know this, but many more by far are ignorant of the true happenings of the time. I do solemnly appeal to you, therefore, my dear friends, to make known the fact of my presence among you and pave smooth my way.
You're listening to the World Teacher Programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM.
Next up is a review by Carmen Font of Benjamin Creme's book, The Great Approach, New Light and Life for Humanity. It begins.
The fact that Maitreya and the Masters are externalizing in the world is a brilliant piece of good news. Whether it comes as a welcome surprise for some, or is understood as the logical consequence of the state of humanity today, it is a simple truth that can be accepted by everyone, regardless of their background or age.
However, the simplicity of this event does not imply that the process of emergence is an easy one. Sometimes, in their zeal for positive change, individuals from audiences around the globe ask why Maitreya and the Masters are taking so long in their public emergence.
Even though Benjamin Creme, in his lectures and in the magazine Share International, has explained the gradual process of emergence that is already taking place, the series of television appearances with Maitreya reported since 2010 stand out in this regard. People are often anxious about the date for the day of declaration. What are Maitreya and the Masters waiting for? The world is a mess, we need them.
This sense of urgency, if properly managed, can be useful to trigger us all into action, to participate actively in the process of making known Maitreya's reappearance. At the same time, this kind of comment often reveals a lack of understanding of the complexity of this event. How is it that something so immediate and easy to grasp can be so complex at the same time?
The Masters are omniscient and omnipresent. They know we are in need. They are aware of our suffering and frustration at not being able to change the many areas of life that need overhauling. Hence many wonder, how much longer can we bear this situation?
A comprehensive response to this and many more questions related to the development of Maitreya's emergence is given in Benjamin Creme's The Great Approach. This is the last of his 4 main books devoted to a full account of Maitreya's mission, and is another treasure trove.
It is in 3 parts, entitled Life Ahead for Humanity, The Great Approach, and The Coming of a New Light. It includes edited talks by Benjamin Creme and a comprehensive selection of questions and answers stemming from these lectures.
The structure follows a meaningful rhythm. It illustrates the background of the Masters and why they are returning openly to the world. Then in Part 2, The Great Approach, we learn the particulars of how the Day of Declaration will take place. And finally, in the 3rd movement of this harmonious symphony of events, we are acquainted with what will happen after the day in which the whole world sees and recognizes Maitreya and the Masters for what they are, stalwart champions of humanity.
The Day of Declaration is indeed a climactic event for us, but it is no less so for the Masters. As Benjamin Creme writes, the Masters must, quote, return to physical plane activity, only now in group formation, in order to reenact their own life expression in preparation for the way of higher evolution.
As much as the Masters are invincible and all-powerful to us, hierarchy itself is involved in an evolutionary process as a centre of energy of this planet. These ways of higher evolution are well beyond our grasp, but bearing this in mind helps us to realise that the Masters cannot freely manipulate the laws that govern the path of evolution. They act in response to humanity's need and our invocation for help.
Their adherence to the law of cause and effect, and their full acceptance of our free will, is not an act of cruelty, but of love, trust and respect towards humanity. Feeling distrustful or dejected about the apparent length of time that Maitreya is taking until the Day of Declaration reveals a sense of disconnectedness between their mission and our task at hand.
Instead of viewing ourselves as builders in the transformation of the world, as we have known it till now, many bemoan that the Masters are not fulfilling their promise, or that the world will never be saved.
Our actions and decisions are interlaced with the actions and reactions of the Masters. When we walk the path of service, they can come closer to us. When we advance in the direction of sharing, they present us with wonderful opportunities.
Hierarchy has decided to return now to the world because we are prepared for this event. We could feel proud and ashamed at the same time. Proud of deserving their help, and ashamed of the regrettable state of our world. This delicate handling of pairs of opposites within the law requires much more than a careful rapprochement. It is a great approach.
It makes little difference whether we think we know all the particulars of Maitreya's emergence, as Benjamin Creme has described them in various other writings and lectures.
Reading the first part of The Great Approach, entitled Life Ahead for Humanity, provides a fresh insight into the kind of task that hierarchy has to accomplish before they can openly speak to us.
This section not only includes a detailed account of what will happen on the Day of Declaration, but also the background work of preparation for this event, encounters with Maitreya and the Masters, including his appearance to religious groups, and the right attitude of disciples and the public in general to favour Maitreya's emergence.
At the same time, this event is the way humanity overcomes the injustices generated by our current economic system and commercialization. Benjamin Creme analyzes the effects of market forces on our everyday running of world affairs, and highlights the manner in which these energies of destruction will be defeated, from both an esoteric and exoteric point of view. Quote, when market forces are seen as the destructive agencies that they are, because they benefit the few at the expense of the many, and when commercialization is recognized as the destructive mode by which that destructiveness works out, then the energy of it will be resolved. It will be reconstructed.
Creme adds in this regard that the law governing action and reaction, which is the law underlying the work of the spirit of peace or equilibrium, the cosmic avatar who overshadows Maitreya, will, quote, recreate out of that destructiveness its opposite, and in the exact proportion. That is being done now.
In this approach, from the masters to humanity and we to them, sharing is essential. The final sections of Part 1 of the Great Approach are devoted to the nuances of sharing, what it is and how it applies when solving political, social, and environmental hardships.
Part 2 of the book concentrates on a long commentary by Benjamin Creme about the full return and externalization of the hierarchy. This is where the reader can see the degree of complexity of this milestone, which is both inevitable and at the same time flexible in nature.
The nuts and bolts of the sentence, for over 500 years the masters have known that sooner or later their return would have to take place, acquire greater significance when we read, for example, an account of the 7 paths of higher evolution, or the way the masters work.
We are here reminded of the humility of the masters, which is a divine quality in that its major expression is lack of self or ego. Quote, humility is left when pride and self-love are not present. It is a natural given state, not something you acquire. You acquire arrogance, conceit, and glamours of all kinds, but you cannot acquire humility. You can acquire a humble attitude, but that is something quite different. Once Maitreya is openly among us, we will be astonished by his humility and his treatment of us as equals.
This section gives further information on the historical Jesus and his relationship with Maitreya over the centuries, as well as further details about the master who was Mary, the mother of Jesus. Quote, the actual externalization is not simply the masters coming out openly, waving to the populace and being very chummy and friendly. It is to do with the externalization of the inner ashrams onto the outer physical plane.
The task of preparing the way for the emergence of the Christ and the masters into the world is almost completed. What is required, writes Benjamin Creme, is an interpretation of the work of the masters, an explanation of their reasons for returning, and for the particular relationship they make or do not make with humanity.
The ongoing task of illuminating the audiences, present and future, will be an important aspect of the coming of a new light, the subject of the 3rd part of the Great Approach. Benjamin Creme offers an extensive and precise commentary on the article Let There Be Light by his master. This covers both the scientific nature of light and its esoteric significance.
Soul infusion is actually the amount of the light of God that the soul brings in from the spiritual triad. That is, the self, the spiritual being which is reflected through the soul and from the soul to the personality.
We bring in more light to our personality as we begin to serve, and this is not simply an issue that impacts us personally, but also globally, since the overall aim of the incarnational process for the soul is the spiritualization of matter in this planet.
There is an inner and an outer light. There is the light of the atomic particles of the brain itself. Then there is the light of the etheric body, the etheric counterpart of the brain. There is the light of the soul, which is usually seen as a brilliant sun in the head. And the interactions of these different kinds of light, if properly managed, transform the density of matter.
Sometimes, however, we misuse that light which goes all through the planes, including the astral emotional plane. Benjamin Creme makes the point that there is now an intensification of the astral, emotional light of the planet, and a downward movement of that light onto the physical plane.
Even though this may have a positive side effect, such as the awakening of humanity to the awareness of life after death and of the subtle planes of matter, it is of paramount importance that humanity begins to change the focus of our polarization to a mental one.
This does not happen overnight, but the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters will precipitate a greater recognition of the light of the soul, seen as a desire to serve, which will help dissipate astral miasmas. The Master said, "The world stands ready for more light. The peoples everywhere are thirsty for new knowledge of themselves and of God." This knowledge is not merely intellectual but practical, and its unfoldment will bring it greater health and a sense of happiness.
Readers will be pleased to see that the last heading of the book is entitled Happiness. This beautifully summarizes the essential nature of the Great Approach, the expression of humanity's true nature in its full potential. It is, as Benjamin Creme describes it, a kind of inner secret, and when we fully interiorize it, then all questioning ceases.
And that concludes our program today. For more information, please ring us on 06 3646 101. To inquire about Share International magazine subscriptions, our free newsletter which contains snippets from the magazine, or any books by Benjamin Creme, please phone 04 234 1133, or you can write to P.O. Box 9576 Wellington.
Thank you for listening to us on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM, and please tune in for our next World Teacher programme, which will be on Saturday the 1st of December at the usual time of 10 a.m.
You can listen again to this podcast and previous ones by visiting our new library at shareinternationalnewzealand.wordpress.com and click on the radio tab.